Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back to play another game. Yes, we are going to play another game of Bootleg or Not, because I was recently scrolling around through AliExpress, just kind of checking stuff out. I always love to, basically look through there to see what kind of interesting new prehistoric, or in this case, not so prehistoric, figures that we see on there, the random ones that pop up, because sometimes they can be quite fun. And I came across this one, and this one is a crocodile, and I was looking at the images, and I'm like, man, that is a very nice looking crocodile figure. Like, I really want to check that one out in person, and it was fairly cheap, so I placed an order, and it wasn't until it actually arrived and I was looking at it that I'm like, man, this thing looks very familiar. And I don't know, maybe I'm just not the sharpest tool in the shed, because I probably should have seen it coming prior, but it looks extremely similar to this figure, which, if you are familiar with this one, this is the Rebor Dinosaur. So, when you look at the two together, it's obviously going to be another one of those instances where, if it is a bootleg, which I'm pretty sure it is, it's one of those situations where they've clearly modified the figure a little bit. I guess their attempt to kind of disguise the fact that it is a bootleg, but it looks to me like I've definitely been duped yet again. But we're going to go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at both of these figures together, and we'll try to iron out if this is a bootleg or not. So I feel like when it comes to this figure, it might not be quite as obvious or easy as it is with some others, because when you look at the overall appearance of a crocodile and stuff, they're going to have a very similar look to them. No matter what way you go, they're going to look similar, because obviously they have the same type of skin texture and stuff on these figures as you're going to see on a real crocodile. So it's going to be, in my opinion, a little bit tough to absolutely say that just by looking at the detailing that they are bootlegs. But if you take a look at the skin texture here, the scoots basically moving along the back of the potential bootleg version compared to the Rebor Dinosaur, I mean, they're very similar. The overall detailing does look very, very similar, though I will say it, of course, looks better on the Rebor version. If you look at the two from up above, there is a very, very obvious difference in size and also a difference in girth. The Rebor version is much wider compared to the much thinner look for this AliExpress version. And that's actually pretty shocking to me. I kind of expected them to pretty much look the same from up above, but they actually do have quite a different look to them. As you continue to follow along here with the skin texture, we'll just kind of follow it up and basically look for any type of similarities. I actually think the head and neck looks very different. When you look from up above, you can see, again, much more bulkiness to the neck and throat of the Rebor Dinosaur compared to the AliExpress version here. But when we continue to move up here through the head, there is definitely a very strong similarity, but also a bit of a different look to the two. Though I will say one area that does look pretty similar in the head is right here. There's like these very interesting scoots moving down through the head of the AliExpress version, and when you look over here at the Rebor version, that is actually on the Rebor version, though it looks, again, a lot more natural. It's a bit more exaggerated over here on this version. So they do look similar, but also a bit different. Again, you can look back here, the distance between this part of the head and the beginning of the scoots in the neck is actually quite different than what we see on the Rebor version. When it comes to the positioning of the legs, they kind of look pretty much the same, but maybe at the same time a little bit different. It looks like the left leg of the Rebor version is outstretched a little bit more than we see on the AliExpress version. And then when we come down here, the rear legs are pretty much the same, I would say, as far as the positioning goes. Also, the general appearance of the foot looks very, very similar. And then when we head back here into the tails of the crocodile and the Dinosaur, you can see that they actually do look kind of similar. I think the thickness in the tail looks very similar here as we move out, and it also decreases in size. The tails look very, very similar, but again, it could be an instance of them just both being kind of crocodilians, so they're going to look pretty similar. Obviously, the tail is a bit shorter on the AliExpress version, but they do have a very strong similar look to them as far as the way that the tails look compared to each other and the way that the detail looks as you move back here and we continue to follow along. You know, when you look at them from the side, this is where they really do look extremely similar. From up above, not as much as you might think, but from the side they look extremely similar, I think, especially the positioning of the legs and the way that the scoots look. So here's one spot that I think I'm definitely discovering some strong similarities, which absolutely point me into the definitive decision of these being bootlegged from me, well, of this being bootlegged from this. But there's a row of sort of osteoderms moving along right here. There it is on the Rebor Deinosuchus. I almost said Sarcosuchus, but the Rebor Deinosuchus, it definitely has the same type of scales right there that the other one has. Again, as you move up, even the detailing there in the neck, I think looks a little bit too similar to just dismiss as far as being, you know, potentially not from the Rebor version. Sorry, I'm just kind of readjusting them here. Kind of get a look at the heads from the side. Obviously, they've repositioned the neck and everything for the bootleg version, and they've definitely retextured the face, and not in a good way. It looks terrible as far as the texturing running along right here. Looks really bad. It looks way better on the Rebor Deinosuchus. Let's take a look at the underside. Absolutely looks extremely similar down here as well. You know, when you first start looking at it from up above, it does have a bit of a different look to it, but once you come down here to the underside and you look at it from the side, I think it's very obvious to me that this is definitely bootlegged from the Rebor version. It's interesting to see, though, that the cloaca isn't really present on here, but it is on the Rebor version, so they apparently ditched that at some point. And, yeah, I mean, very similar looking from this side as well. The heads also look pretty similar, and I believe they've kind of readjusted the way the articulation works, because on this one we articulate the lower jaw now, but on the Rebor version you actually articulate the upper jaw. So they have definitely edited the figure in a way. Somehow they've readjusted that so that it articulates differently. So overall, I would say that this is definitely, in my opinion, a bootleg of the Rebor Deinosuchus. At first, when you take a first quick glance at it, you know, it looks obvious enough, and that's kind of why I assumed it was definitely a bootleg once I actually saw it in hand, and it started, you know, making the hamster run on the wheel in my brain. I'm like, wow, that really does look like the Rebor version. But when I looked at it from up above, I actually started to have some doubts, and now, looking at it from the side and underside, I actually have changed my mind completely back to it being a bootleg. Let's see if I can get a shot of the inside of the mouths of the two of them, if I can get this mouth open. So detail-wise, on the upper side, it looks way better on the Rebor version, kind of sloppy looking on the potential bootleg version, and the mouth just keeps closing on it. When it comes to the inside on the lower side, definitely very similar. Let's actually look at the way the teeth are sculpted. Yeah, like, you can see how the teeth are very similar on each of the different versions, just way more crisp on the Rebor version. So it's unfortunate, because I actually had some hope that there was some potential with this figure, although it's absolutely way sloppier and not quite as nice in person as it appeared on the original AliExpress listings. But I think it's a very safe bet that this is in fact a bootleg of the Rebor Deinosuchus. And of course, you'll see a few comparison images here of the two just kind of sitting next to each other. But I really do feel like, again, this is another one of those instances where it's a lot more obvious than some of the other figures, like the Spinosaurus that I had taken a look at that was very similar to the Nanmu one. I felt like wasn't as obvious as, say, the Mosasaurus that I had taken a look at, where it was a lot more obvious. I feel like this is very close to the Mosasaurus, but at the same time, again, you never truly can tell, and especially when it comes to a species like this that we still have around today, not so much the Deinosuchus, but the Crocodile, and the fact that the detail is inevitably going to look extremely similar between two different figures like that, again, can make it very tricky to decipher if, in fact, it is a bootleg. But I feel like it's a very healthy bet that this is a bootleg. So in my opinion, yes, it definitely is, but I'm always intrigued to hear your thoughts. So in the comments section, let me know what you guys think of whether or not this is a bootleg or not. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.